If a little green is good, more is even better. Now, back to Green is Good with John Shigarian and Mike Brady.
Welcome back to Green is Good, and we're so honored to have with us today Evan Marks, the Executive Director of the Ecology Center in Southern California. Welcome to Green is Good, Evan Marks.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Hey, Evan, we're on your beautiful website here, the Ecology Center's website, theecologycenter.org. It looks like you have just a gorgeous place down there, and you're doing amazing things. What is really the Ecology Center, so our listeners in the United States, California, and around the world can learn a bit more about what you're doing? What is the Ecology Center?
Yeah, so the Ecology Center, we're an eco-educational nonprofit dedicated to providing everyday ecological solutions. So sort of like the color and feel of our website, it's really just an open engagement for community, for families, just to take on sustainability in a very fun and hands-on way.
When was it started?
I started the organization 2 years ago.
Okay.
But there's a lot of history in this property. It's a historic farmhouse. It's all the way back from 1878.
No way.
So we work with the city of San Juan Capistrano. They own this property. It's a working organic farm, and the historic house is the oldest wooden house in San Juan Capistrano.
And what's the products you guys farm there?
So the farm is a separate entity, and it's called South Coast Farms, and it's a mixed veggie farm.
Beautiful.
Organic strawberries, 300-person CSA, and an on-site farm stand.
Bet you those strawberries taste good.
Oh, my God, right now the sun is so bright that, they get sweeter and sweeter by the day.
All right, so talk a little bit about the journey. You have traveled extensively around the world, Costa Rica, Peru, Mexico, Ghana, Nigeria.
Right.
You're a big environmentalist. This is a wonderful opportunity. Talk a little bit about your journey, how you came to the Ecology Center, and where you're taking it now. Where and how where is this going?
Yeah, so I started. I got into organic agriculture as an avenue of, in the connection between ocean health and farming systems. I'm going to take us back even further from my traveling, and I'll end up there. But as a high school teen, as a surfer, I learned through the Surfrider Foundation that humans have a negative impact on the environment, and on a large scale, globally, agriculture is the number one impact. So that took me right into university, and I went to UC Santa Cruz and studied agroecology, and had the opportunity to work on all sorts of amazing organic farms, and that took me internationally. So I worked for 4.5 years throughout Latin America and into West Africa, as you mentioned, some of those countries, doing all different types of projects, mostly as a sustainability consultant with large landowners, local farmers, educational facilities, developers, all kinds of stuff, but it was really about connecting food systems, water systems, waste management systems in a sustainable and healthy way.
Gotcha. And then now you've created this Ecology Center in Southern California. First of all, why Southern California? You are very comfortable, obviously. Anywhere you go, you can make home. You've lived in, you've traveled the world extensively, much more than most people ever get to go anywhere.
Right.
Why Southern California?
Well, working in Nigeria, I had an opportunity to take on creating a model farm for the country. It was going to be what would be there a very large-scale project. It was a 60-acre project. It was going to be an integrated, sustainable agricultural system. And so that was on one side of the opportunity. And then the other side of the opportunity was, this isn't my community. That was kind of my call to action, was long-lasting change happens when you're rooted somewhere for a very long time. And I guess where I was in my life and where I am continually is that my family's here, I'm from here. I think Orange County needs change and sustainability as much as Nigeria or anywhere else on this planet. So that all of those equations added up was the preface for creating this ecological hub for Orange County, the Ecology Center.
Evan, did your parents, were they greenies or tree huggers, or is this something?
Not really. I mean, definitely progressive people, but I think as a group, as a family, we've embraced this together. They're part of our group here on a day-to-day basis, but they're artists and business people, but sustainability is a passion that was inspired, I think, from me.
And we all need inspiration, and we all need coaches. Who do you count as your inspirations in your travels and your learnings as you've now evolved to this position at the Ecology Center?
There's a lot. I think one of my early mentors, his name was Steve Gleesman, and he's a professor at UC Santa Cruz. He wrote the textbook on agroecology, and he works extensively internationally, and he was kind of one of the first big mentors of mine that looked at connecting food and community. And there's been other mentors, and one of my current mentors is his name's Harry Helling, and he runs a local nonprofit here in Orange County as well called the Crystal Cove Alliance. So he's a veteran in this field, and he's a chairman of our board of directors as well. But there's all sorts of mentors. I mean, it's my parents and my brother, and of course my girlfriend, and then the people that I've met along the way, whether it really be indigenous people, which I've spent time with and learned so much from, because really when it comes down to sustainability, especially around agriculture, we always revert back to systems that are age-old, meaning have been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years.
So let's talk about, what the Ecology Center is actually doing. We're on your website. Mike and I are on your beautiful website now. For those of us who just joined us, we're lucky to have Evan Marks on with us today, the executive director of the Ecology Center. And you could look up his beautiful website if you got your iPad or desktop or laptop in front of you. It's theecologycenter.org. What are some of the great programs that you're proud of that you're running there now? Backyard Skills is a program that's really close to my heart, and it's one of the early, I think, intentions of the center was to create an open platform for all ages, and this is our adult offering. It's a DIY workshop series. We do them a couple times a month, and it's just really a way to get people in the door. So maybe you've never even heard the word sustainability, and maybe you don't even think about using it anytime soon. But this is really just about people coming together, building community, and being a part of the solution. And so the solutions can be simple, but they all go a long way. And so this workshop series has activities such as garden design, or learning how to plant an herb garden, or learning how to design and build a rain barrel or a gray water system, or even learning about sourdough baking or organic beer making. It's kind of all over the board, but I think that by putting skills in the people's hands around us, it just makes us that much more of a diverse and rich community. So, you have these wonderful programs there, and, when you wake up every morning, what are your greatest goals for the Ecology Center? How do you, what's measurable is manageable, so obviously you have some measurable goals.
Right.
Where do you want to take this?
We have an amazing start 2 years out, and, we already have over 10,000 visitors to the center on a yearly basis. I think our goal is really just to expand that outreach into the community beyond just South Orange County. It goes into Orange County, and with some of our partnerships, even much beyond that. Funny enough, I was in Brooklyn, New York last weekend teaching a backyard skills workshop to over 100 people. So I think that the work that we're doing is part of a greater culture and community that looks at the intersection of creative thinking and community building all around sustainability.
Evan, Mike and I are huge fans of San Diego. We both lived there before, and
right.
And so we love where you're situated. It's a beautiful part of this whole planet in San Juan Capistrano. But every community is idiosyncratic, and
right.
some folks are always supporting of any new business or any new nonprofit, and some are against it. Or do you have any community challenges down in that part of the woods?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the challenges are so minor compared to the support.
Right.
But yeah, there's constant challenge. I mean, candidly, we work with the city, and we're essentially tenants of their historic building. That's right. A constant relationship that needs to be managed. Yeah. There is probably a total of, just a few that aren't completely supportive of our work, and other than that, there's hundreds of members. So I always like to just kind of focus on the solutions, and that's what we always do here, and the people that support us. I think that's the most important thing.
What have you learned, though? The one person can change the world. What Mike and I have learned, and we're on a journey also. This is the third year of this radio show, and Mike and I get to we get a fascinating window on the world with some of the guests that we have on,
right.
Most of the guests, and how individuals can make such a difference. What's your experience in this journey that you're on at the Ecology Center with how individuals can truly make a difference?
Yeah, I mean that's really our ethic as well, and I've seen it over and over again, and it's because the work that we do, right, this culture that we're all a part of, meaning that we're passionate about living in a healthy place with healthy people, and we're passionate about perpetuating that for future generations. Right. So to inspire that within an individual, it's contagious, and so that individual, whether it be learning how to make a terrarium or planting a garden, and whether it's the kids we work with or the adults, but you always see them with a big smile on their face, and they always take it home, and of course they're going to spread the word if they were inspired. So we just, that's really the starting point, and I've seen it over and over again, whether it be, large corporations that we work with that have now totally begun embracing sustainability through some of the work and outreach we've done, or whether it be just individuals.
Evan, you brought up a good word, inspire. So you'd rather inspire than frighten. Explain the difference when it comes down to environmental and eco-politics of inspire versus frighten, and why you've chosen inspire.
Well, that's all we do. We seek to inspire and involve people in all of our work and all of the solutions. And I think that is it is a little bit of a transition from what a typical environmental sort of organization would do, and I don't really consider us one of those either, which is kind of funny. Sustainability is a whole different context, and it's integrating people into positive solutions. And I think that there's so many challenges out there, and it's really easy to get bogged down on that. And I know that I do on a daily basis. And so I really what inspires me is the solutions, the possibility of making a difference, possibility of connecting to an individual or something positive in their environment or around their home. So, yeah, we really, you can tell by the look of our website and all of our programming, there's nothing about anything other than positivism and solutions.
Speaking about the website, which is just a beautiful website, you said about 10,000 visitors a year now are coming to the Ecology Center. How are you using? You're very young and very, I'm sure, technologically oriented as your generation typically is. How are you using the power of your website and also social media to help touch more people than those who can just make it to your great center?
Well, we're not experts at it, and we're sort of beginning the journey of how to use these tools efficiently. But, connected to all this is design, and we use design intently from day one in how we tell our story. So we use design, as you can tell, visually it's stimulating. All of our work has that visual stimulation. That's our art director, David Rager, who does all of that, and it's kind of this collaboration that we have in all of our projects, and it's a way to lure people in, understand that we can simplify some of these large, complex conversations, and it's fun. That's the way to engage people. So, like I said, design is one of the strongest tools we have, and the social media and all the web sort of stuff is a work in progress.
Evan, are you still a surfer?
Absolutely.
So talk a little bit about surfing and its nexus to the environment. Any negative impacts or anything you want to share with our listeners as to how surfers can mitigate any of the negative impacts that surfing has or interaction has with the ocean?
Well, surfing it's a pretty amazing culture, and our work is tied hand in hand to Hurley, which is one of the largest surf brands, and they're directly in our community as well.
Great.
So I do work with a lot of surfers, and we tell this story to not only surf brands but also their community, and I think what the basic deal is that we're all connected through what we call a watershed, meaning that all of our communities have everything we do at home relates to the ocean. So the way that our gardens look and the way that we use our water inside the house and the products that we buy and the way that we dispose of them and the food that we eat and all that kind of stuff, everything ends up in the ocean. So I guess, as surfers, that's the first piece is the education, and then there's the kind of the engagement is, okay, so how do I make a difference? And then that's where we really come in and teach people about how to transform the garden into something productive and mitigate all runoff and pollution, and how to kind of really just take the watershed concept back to home and ensure that all oceans will be healthy.
Interesting. So you also then are engaged with Hurley, and you do outreach with surfers around the United States and around the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's just beginning. We're starting in our community, but as a global brand that they are, the story is being taken further.
That is awesome. The Ecology Center, where was that paradigm created? Are there 1,000 ecology centers across the United States and the world? Are you one of very few, and are you a new paradigm that others are going to be following? How did you come up with this inspirational center?
Yeah, well, it is a movement, and I tapped in on that, and I thought that there was some wisdom to continuing that lineage, and I shouldn't be quoted, but probably the first ecology center it was started in Berkeley, California.
Oh.
And back in the probably mid to late 60s, and they're still around. Totally different type of work that we do, but I think that in that era, 40 years ago, that was a movement. So they created all these ecology centers throughout the country. I would think that there's probably 40 to 50 of them right now. I think that we're probably the youngest kids on the block. And the greatest thing about that network, and though we're not connected directly all the time, each ecology center is connected to the needs of their community. I think that's the greatest intention, at least, is that you see we were in New York, and there's a Lower East Side Ecology Center, or the one in Berkeley, or there's one in Minnesota, and they all have specific kind of programming that relates to their work. So it would be really fun to think that our programs would be scalable to some of these other organizations, and vice versa.
So they're all community-based, and they best serve the community that they're in, even though they all have the ecology, the similarity of the ecology thread that goes through all of them.
Totally.
So do you have like an Ecology Center association where you all meet annually and share best practices?
There isn't really any formality to it, believe it or not, and I think that's an opportunity. As we're all working prospectively to build community,
absolutely,
it would be really important for us to come together.
So I agree, because imagine just all of you together sharing best practices, and
definitely,
I mean, what a learning experience that would be for everybody.
Absolutely.
You're so close to the water. You yourself love the water, given your surfing experience. Talk a little bit about your exhibition, how Good Water works.
Yeah, so that's our collaboration with Hurley, the first piece of that, and we brought another team player for that in a New York design agency called Zago. So it was the three of us that started this conversation about a year and a half ago, and we kind of really just started from the top, and we said, okay, so how do we make a difference in our community around water? Goal number one. Then, okay, so how do we achieve that? What are the water issues here? And, one of the first pieces that we came to is that though the water is visible, like in the ocean,
right,
water is everywhere around us that we don't see.
Right.
So everything we do takes water at the same time. So there's two pieces of that. So water, how do we make water visible? So that was kind of a greater, visual that we continue to run with. So we've got these very kind of obsessive blue lines everywhere that are just trying to narrate and navigate us through the water infrastructure, that water is everywhere and we're connected to it. And we take it for granted, so let's make it visible. And the second piece, like I mentioned, is that everything we do takes water. So that's called water footprinting. So it's a whole new conversation beyond the typical water conservation concept, and it's really that literally the food we eat, the products we buy, the cars we drive, the energy we switch from the wall, that all has a water footprint and a water story. So now, which connects, of course, to the conversation earlier that I talked about, is we only talk solutions, right? So there's 10 ways to make a difference is what we kind of pared it down to, and it's in our everyday lives. It's, turning off the lights and switching out your bulbs to efficient bulbs. That saves water. That saves 5 gallons a day. A pound of beef is 1,200 gallons, so to think that you could switch out a meat-based diet to a veggie-based diet, even just once a week, that's 1,000 gallons saved, right? So then, there's some simple stuff around the house, whether it be, just turning off the faucet when you brush your teeth, or installing a drip irrigation system, or native plants, or going to the farmer's market. All these things have some massive water savings opportunities. So that's kind of the whole piece. The big visual, we started with, okay, geez, that's a lot of water. We realized that the average Southern Californian consumes 1,800 gallons a day.
Wow.
So it's incredible. And then at the same time, 1 in 6 globally don't have access to even 5 gallons. So what we created was this big monster that represented that 1,800 gallons, and his name's the Juggernaut, or Juggy. It's a big robot made out of 365 Sparklets bottles, the 5-gallon bottles. Wow. And it was a huge monster in the front of our center, and so the whole exhibition within the old historic farmhouse here at the Ecology Center was, how good water works, and it was all about defeating Juggy. And it's up actively. We're up Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 5.
It's so interesting. You were just talking about water, and Mike and I were so honored to have Alan Hershkovitz on with us the other day from the NRDC, and he's just another brilliant thought leader. I mean, truly, really one of the real brilliant thought leaders of our times. And he was sharing with us as we were signing off that as you just pointed out, Evan, that at least 500 million people on this planet don't have access to potable water.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's just, something that we all take for granted. And so thinking more about water, like you just said, the opportunity to save water is so important. So it's so great that that's part of the the messaging that you're doing at the Ecology Center. That's wonderful. Before we're down to the last 3 or 4 minutes here. So, we're online here and we're looking at all the great resources you have. Talk a little bit about the Backyard Skills. The book, Explain to our listeners about that a little bit.
Yeah, like I talked about earlier, that book was inspired by the workshop series that we have actively and been going for the last year and a half. It was a way that it was kind of our first big project that said, how do we take our work off-site? And, like I said, we use design actively to tell our story, and so we teamed up with David Rager, and we built this really great handbook. We're really proud of it, and we self-published it. It's been out, I think, about 3 months now, and we've been selling quite a few copies of it. It's a super accessible book, right? There's 19 DIY activities that you can do with your 4-year-old kid, or you could do with with you and your wife, or at any age group. The teens love it for sure. But there's fun stuff, so all kind of like the examples that I talked about earlier are in that book, plus a whole bunch of different sustainability information and primer type stuff.
And give a little plug. Where can they buy that book?
They can buy that book on our website.
Okay, perfect. And we'll give a shout out to that great, the ecologycenter.org before we sign off. We're down to the last minute and a half. Evan, we get a lot from young people around the world. We get emails, Mike and I, on how can they be the next Evan Marks. Well, why don't you share some of the pearls of wisdom of your journey and how the generation following you can grab the mantle with you and continue this transformational journey here with regards to sustainability?
Yeah, I think it starts with a passion. So if you can find something that you're passionate about and then become an expert in that, just one thing, and then from that one thing becomes many things, right, one at a time, then you've got this very diverse skill set that then will empower an entire community. And so wholeheartedly, that's where I started. I started with one thing, and I wanted to be an expert in organic gardening and farming. And from that avenue, I learned about how community systems work, and that farming and food were a key parts, but so was water and waste management, architecture, and all these things. And I started putting all the pieces together. And, at the end of the day, I realized that it does take a whole group of people to be experts in all these things, but it's nice to have a bit of information on all different types of subject matter, to be quite a bit of a generalist in many regards to all aspects of sustainability. And then, of course, the second piece is figuring out where the network starts, and then just continuing that on and building the community from there.
Hey, Evan, Mike and I are so thankful for your time today. You're doing wonderful work.
Thank you guys so much. It's been an honor.
We're honored to have you on, and you're always welcome to come back. And for our listeners out there, please go to Evan's great website, the ecologycenter.org. Buy the book, Backyard Skills. You won't be disappointed.
Always $12.
Evan Marks, you are both an eco-visionary and a transformation agent, and truly living proof that green is good.
This program will be available for downloading in a couple of days from our station's website, keyword podcast. Thanks for listening, and join us again next week at the same time for another edition of Green is Good.